You might not remember this, but there were a few years in the 1990s when video game developers were trying to make claymation a thing. From Clay Fighters to the Neverhood to the unfortunately titled Claymates, the idea of copying the look of stop-motion animation was appealing in the 16-bit era. Claybook may not be the new Trog reboot I've been yearning for, but I'm excited to see that game developers haven't stopped working with virtual clay. What Second Order has crafted is an inventive puzzle platformer that feels a bit like Katamari Damacy, only with art supplies. After bouncing from PC to Xbox One to PlayStation 4, Claybook is finally making its debut on Nintendo's Switch. What we have here is an odd little game where we reshape a world made up entirely out of clay in an effort to complete a number of challenging missions. And when I talk about reshaping the world, that's exactly what we do. Just rolling around the soft surface will deform the object, and holding the trigger button will let you carve through any bridge, building, or structure standing in your way. This is a game about breaking and rebuilding those levels in hopes of solving quests and earning stars. Now, a typical Claybook mission will have you trying to funnel colored liquid into different containers. This seems like a simple enough problem, but you'll need to cut a hole into each side, create a viable path towards the containers, and then plug up the overflow before you lose too much of that liquid. This is a fairly straightforward mission, but they advance in difficulty from there. It won't take long before you're juggling multiple tasks at once and jumping between the different shapes and objects sitting on the playfield. That brings up a good point. You can change into 4 different shapes at the push of a button, as well as inhabit some of the larger objects sitting around the level. You'll find that some types of objects are better for climbing stairs, while others are good at balancing on those tiny rails in the sky. The big square is especially great at gobbling up the gingerbread houses and other treats, which is something you'll do a lot of in this game. And what's really cool is that you can complete most of these tasks in wildly different ways, giving the player quite a bit of control over the action. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about how we get around in this world. Like I said, you can change shapes at the push of a button, but you can also rewind time whenever you want. This doesn't just get you out of sticky situations, but also leaves a clay stamp in its place. This means that even if you destroy the path to your next objective, you can still build a new path with the rewind mechanic. This is especially helpful because you can't jump or pull off any of those fancy moves, so leaving your clay corpse behind is often imperative if you want to get around. Claybook features 20 different stages in all, including a few levels where the focus is on racing from one checkpoint to the next as quickly as possible. There's even a stage where you pilot a hard-to-control rocket ship around the room trying to hit the targets. While I'm not a big fan of this particular level, it is impressive to see how varied the missions can be. The all-too-brief campaign makes a strong argument that you can mold this world in a number of creative ways. And that's a theme that extends beyond the missions and into the creative modes. You see, much like Little Big Planet and similar games, the emphasis here is on user-created content. The first 20 stages ease you into the world, but the hope is that you'll like it so much that you'll either want to create your own levels or download a bunch of stages from the community. The good news is that the Switch version can download levels made on any platform, which means that there's already a database filled with creative and exciting user-created levels. That's the key to the longevity of this game, because it's not going to take you more than 2 or 3 hours to complete the main campaign. Now, when it comes to creating the levels, I found the process to be a bit frustrating. I've never been real good at designing my own stages in this kind of environment, so I'll fully admit that the issue may be with me. But if I'm being honest, some of the movement feels a bit unruly, and it takes a lot of work to make anything worthwhile. Thankfully, other people have gone through the trouble of mastering this mode, so I'll celebrate their hard work and download those levels instead. That said, none of the user-created stages I sampled were anywhere near as cool as what the developers came up with, which does concern me a little bit. But even with the user-created content, I still can't help but feel like Claybook is a bit lacking. Part of the reason is because of the short campaign, which feels like it's over just as it's starting to get good. I wish there were more missions in each stage, especially since some of the levels feel like they were undercooked. I also hope to see more from the gameplay beyond rolling around and rewinding time. It would have been fun to have more options for molding and carving, giving us even more ways to complete the challenges. In a lot of ways, this feels like the first step of what could be a really cool franchise. I can envision a sequel down the road filled with better mechanics, an easier level creator, more content, and a wider variety of shapes, skins, and themes. And that's a shame, because I genuinely love the way this game looks. I'm a big fan of how everything in this level dents and reshapes as your clump of clay touches it. I love that you can see a little kid in the distance controlling all of this. Look, the presentation warms my heart and immediately sets this game apart from everything else on the market. Despite its many problems, I truly hope that this is a series that continues to grow with more ambitious ideas and a greater sense of variety. I'm not sure developer Second Order has nailed it with this first attempt, but this is definitely a franchise I would like to see more of in the future. Claybook is a fun little experiment that reminds me a lot of Katamari Damacy. While the single-player campaign is a little on the short side, I had a lot of fun playing around in this world and finding unique ways to solve each puzzle. It's also nice to see user-created content, even though I found the level editor to be a bit unruly at times. Unfortunately, the mechanics are too simple for their own good, and I was hoping to see more done with the different objectives. Claybook is a solid first attempt, but it often feels like a stepping block to a much larger and more elaborate sequel. Now that's a game I want to play. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. Are you the type of person who creates and shares levels in video games? If so, what games did you create with? I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, the week may be winding down, but I'm desperately trying to finish my review of Xenon Racer. So, look for that on Friday, hopefully. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.